Hi and welcome to this reading. Today's reading, I'm picking up on the energy of some sort of altercation that's been happening between two individuals. Now, it could be within a relationship, as in within a romantic relationship, but it also could be two brothers, because the song that I was getting was "He's My Brother." And I don't know who sings that. I will find it and I will pop it in the description box. The other song that I got was a Tom Petty song, and the line from that song was, "I won't back down, I'm gonna stand my ground." So I've got some cards that have come out in the pre-shuffle, which give us a bit of a basis of the story of what's going on here. I'm going to go through those, but first of all, if you are new to my channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. A bit about me. First, I'm an intuitive tarot reader. I pick up on energy prior to a reading. I will then come and use my tarot and oracle decks to further clarify that message. Now, all the tarot decks that I use on my channel are my own designs, because I'm also an illustrator. So if you call to any of those, the links to them can be found in the description box. Now, it is incredibly peaceful in my house at the moment, but about 5 minutes ago, and probably for 45 minutes to an hour, I have got a new puppy. I've got a 4-year-old Labradoodle and I have a 11-week-old Labradoodle. And they're starting to have the new puppy for a couple of days. And there's been some argy-bargy. There was dogs barking, big dogs barking, little dogs barking, people trying to, I won't back down, people trying to assert their authority. They were playing games at one point, and then things got a little bit loud, I want to say, between the two of them. And oftentimes when I'm picking up, I was getting that song through, and then all of a sudden the dogs were almost at each other's throats. And so it's this energy of what's playing out in the collective at the moment. This energy of one day it's good, or one moment it's good, and then all of a sudden things can turn. That's what that is there. Okay, so these are the cards that I got in the pre-shuffle. Now, Haniel is the Lover's card. The Lover's card also used to be called the Choice card. So a choice to back down, or a choice to, stand your ground within some sort of argument that's been within your life. And it could be somebody at work, it could be a sibling, it could be a romantic relationship, because at the moment they're on separate ends of the house, but they're both asleep. Yet yesterday, for the first time in 4 days, they were sleeping side by side. So it's going in fits and spurts. Is that the term? Joy, divine communication, how you communicate with this person. Now, it is a soul connection, because the Lover's card is a soul connection. So it's a connection that's meant to be in your life in order to teach you some lessons about how to communicate with people, I want to say, that are the same but are different, because they're both Labradoodles. They come from different breeders. So whilst they are the same, they've come from different sides of the track. There's a difference in age, and often that sees a difference in maturity. One is able to back down, where the other is potentially, just hasn't had that life experience to know when to stop. They've been resource guarding. So the dynamics of this relationship that you are in, where there is argy-bargy, I want to say, might be over some sort of physical item. And what I actually just heard was the dividing of a will. It doesn't have to be that, but oftentimes just get little nudges. Might be resource guarding something that you've been working on at work. Even from a perspective of resource guarding a parent. Maybe one sibling is taking up an incredible amount of time of parents. That often happens when you have parents who babysit between multiple grandchildren, and you have one family who gets in first and sucks up all the weekends or all the free days that the grandparents have, and then somebody else within that family is really desperate for some help from a grandparent, but they're already booked up. And so it creates argy-bargy. This is from my favorite things deck, just a selection of images. I just went around and photographed all the things in my house that have meaning. And this comes from a printer's box. And it's a little wooden, I want to say, almost like a spinning top. If you think that it's something else, please let me know. But it came out round and round and round and round. And actually, when I started this reading, it was 725, which is a 7 and a 7. Round and round and round and round and round. Even, actually, my daughter-in-law was just down in South Australia and bought me this to pop my drink on when I'm doing my reading. Round and round and round and round. This image of round and round and round. You might also have some sort of figure within the parameters of this relationship that is trying to act as a mediator. Round and round and round and round. Let's pop that there. Actually, let me get, okay. This card brings happiness to couples and rules over negative energy. So as I said, somebody trying to almost, and that was me this morning with the dogs. I was like saying to one, you sit there, you know, stop barking, stop this, stop growling, you know. When we went to the vet with the little puppy to get his injections, and we were asking the vet about how we introduced the two of them, it could be somebody new within a family. You know, maybe you have a sibling's partner, a new partner that's coming in. And look, you know, it changes up the dynamics. Because obviously then, you know, one person doesn't get as much time with their sibling because their sibling is now spending all their time with the new person. There's an upset to the equilibrium. And that's what I was going to say. The vet said, you need to let the older dog assert his dog authority. You can assert your authority within your household. It's obviously your home, and you can create human rules around what you want the puppy to do. But you also have to allow the older dog to assert the dog rules. I'm just looking at this. Got their back turned. Somebody's got their back turned. We've got Violet, Mary's humility. Somebody having to eat some sort of humble pie, maybe in actions that they've taken, because we also had the blah, 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 blah. Somebody in regret. I recognize that the sands of time cannot be altered. As I said, somebody having to eat humble pie. As I was finishing this reading, as I was starting this reading, my washing machine was finishing, which is the World card, the end of a cycle. The World card is Saturn, the lessons that you learn in the interactions that you have with other people. Empathy, I'm all about the double vision, ready to check out both sides of the story. And maybe that's that humble pie. Recognizing your part in the degradation of whatever's happened here. And maybe coming back, you know, a sibling saying, you know what, I have used up a lot of my parents' time. I haven't been fair to the other people around me. Now I understand why they possibly are cranky. And that comes from both sides. And then the Three of Swords. That's that empathy here, because the Three of Swords is Saturn in Libra. Again, it's that Saturn, the world, but it's a card of heartbreak. And often when this card comes out, I think the first thing that pops into my head is two truths and a lie. Yes, you have a component of how you have presented your argument in this situation. That is true. But there's also an untruth in it because you haven't looked at the other person. I'm all about the double vision, ready to check out both sides of the story. And on the bottom of this little deck here is the Tower. Some sort of previous foundation that has come tumbling down because there has been, I want to say here with the World card, you were meant to go through this particular phase of destruction with this person in order to rebuild. Or maybe decide that you don't want to rebuild with this person. Pop my hippo there. It's almost resource guarding. And excuse me, I'm just drinking my coffee because I made this coffee Now, I drink an iced coffee, so it's cold, doesn't matter. But all the ice cubes have melted. And it's probably 7:45 in the morning now. I can't quite see the time. But I made this coffee at 5:30 this morning, and I've been within the argy-bargy of sorting these dogs out, and so I just hadn't had a chance. So let's get the energy around you. Oh, okay. The Devil, toxic. The Eight of Cups, somebody walking away. Eight of Cups is Saturn and Pisces. So learning the spiritual lesson in and around whatever's happened here. The Devil is Saturn, learning the spiritual lesson. And the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands is Mars and Aries. So Mars is the fighter. And Aries is a card. Well, Aries is the Emperor. Actually, that's what wanted to show itself in this deck. The Emperor. An out of balance Emperor who's maybe coming to regret or has some regrets about how they acted in the past in a toxic way. Emperor energy is not gender specific. We all hold masculine and feminine energy within us. An out of balance Emperor is somebody who takes action, does things that they can't take back, words that they say that they can't take back, when they are out of balance, or when they do things that are ego driven and not for the benefit of all. I've got that line from Outlander when he and Claire first fight. And he apologizes. He apologizes for saying something that he didn't mean when he was angry. And I can't remember what the actual line. It's a beautiful line. I think it's just beautiful because it's in that Scottish accent. But it's something like, I have regret for the things that I didn't mean what I said. Humility. An apology may be coming in, regret and apology. And even if you look at, the people that you interact with in your life, they're people that you are meant to meet on your soul's journey. So we've got Saturn and Pisces here, the Eight of Cups. They're people that you're meant to meet. It's that everybody you meet is a lesson waiting to happen. Listen to those crows. And if you're going round and round and round with somebody, it's because you haven't learned that part of the lesson. It's like you put an item in the washing machine and it still comes out with a stain still on it. You've got to go back and use a different stain remover. And then you can put it through the machine again. You put it through the cycle again, the world card. And you learn that perhaps if it's an oil stain or a grease stain, you were using something for a blood stain, but you have to use something different. But siblings are a big one. And siblings are a great example of fights because there's that underlying sense of familiarity and love and connection, and you're almost meant to, it's a bit like the dogs, you're almost meant to break in who you are as a person and how you manage things in conflict in and around your siblings or your parents. It's because their underlying love for you is greater than the argument that you're having. Okay, what's happening in the 3D? The Five of Pentacles, somebody being left out in the cold. The Five of Pentacles is Mercury in Taurus. Mercury is about communication. I think we're actually in a Mercury retrograde at the moment, I think. Today's the 10th of November. Mercury retrograde is when somebody can't get out what they want to say or has difficulty. That's another thing you might want to check in your chart. If you were born in a Mercury retrograde, now I was, two of my kids were. So it's a different way of communicating or an inability to communicate, or oftentimes you'll see somebody who has Mercury retrograde in their chart. They tend to be a little quieter, wanting to make sure that what they communicate is the right thing before they step forward, before they take action. The other thing is it could be somebody who tries to communicate, but what they are saying isn't coming out the right way, and that in itself causes conflict. or there's a frustration about how things have been interpreted, especially within an argument. We've got the Six of Wands on the bottom. Victory after a long battle. What's happening in the soul? Okay, Ten of Wands. That's an ending. Tens are the end, but this is lots of burdens. This is potentially lots of arguments. And Wands, we've got the Ace of Cups, which is really beautiful. That's really beautiful. An ending that brings a new beginning. And like I said before, it's if there is history between you, it's putting those wands down. That's that fire energy that I was talking about with the Emperor and the Two of Wands. Lessons upon lessons upon lessons with this person. And you still go back. And look, this also could be a, you know what, I've done my time with you. There's nothing else that I can learn from you. I've had so many arguments with you and we are not getting anywhere. Now I'm making the decision, because the Two of Wands is about, you know, do I stay in this conflict, toxic relationship, or do I make the decision to move somewhere else? Eight of Cups, walking away from something that is toxic. And that in itself is a lesson, because you learn that protecting your inner peace is more important than going back into the battle. You know, as I said, I've got one dog now asleep at one end of the house and one dog asleep at the other end of the house. Protecting your peace, preserving your own cup. Yeah, look at that. Seven of Wands on the bottom, which is a card of defense. Mars and Leo. I won't back down. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to stand my ground and actually say, you know what, no more. That could be where you're at. Still regretting what's happened in the past, but empathy, understanding, you now see both sides of whatever argument or arguments have been. There has been a heartbreak. Maybe something has been torn down. You recognize that even though you are siblings, or you are partners, or you are, you know, parent-child dynamic here, this cycle has ended with the World card here. Saturn, the cycle has ended with this person. But what you do is you take with you all of those lessons that you learn, and then you implement them in future relationships, or in current relationships, in relationships with other people that you have in your life. And that's why they talk about the Magician card, because the Magician card, the World card is number 21 in the Major Arcana. It's the last, it's the end of the cycle, and it reverts back to the Fool. Are you going to be a fool and go back into the same cycle with the same person? Or do you recognize the lessons that you've learned? And now if you do go back into a relationship with that person, because it's the beginning of a new cycle with that person, you go back in, you're choosing to remain in that cycle, you go back in armed with all the lessons that you've learned in the previous cycles with that person. Well, the number one card is the Magician, which is Mercury in Taurus, You now have all of those lessons that you've learned in your little kit bag. And so as you move through the new cycle, Ace of Cups, how you interact with other people, as you move through that new cycle, you have all of these skills, as long as you've learned them. What these cards are saying, though, is that you've learned them. Irrespective of whether you stay in a cycle with this individual or if you move on, you've learned them, because you've got the World. The message from the man upstairs, the Six of Cups. So beautiful. The Six of Cups is about things from the past, the lessons that you've learned from the past, the lessons that you've learned with this person, in this interaction with this person, and what you then do moving forward. Do you go back or do you move on? It's the Sun in Scorpio. Scorpio is about death or rebirth, a new beginning, and the Sun is about illumination. Okay, the outcome. The King of Wands. The King of Wands is that fire energy again, but it's making a decision based on the information that you have, these lessons that you've learned. That's really beautiful. Ten of Cups, the spiritual journey that you're on. Again, the end. Ten of Cups is is the end of the lessons that you've learned with this person and the opportunity for a fresh start, a do-over. And that song, Both Sides Now. I look at life from both sides now. From win or lose, or still somehow, clouds are just illusions. I never really knew life at all. Interesting. Okay, I don't want to do a big long reading. Let's get any advice for you. Ascension. Beautiful. Your soul has ascended. Love is the greatest healer. Let's do 2 more. Clearly decide what you want. So it's your choice what you do. Follow your gut. In this situation with this person, elevation, up to you. And maybe it's also about looking at whether this person is ascending in their thought process or whether they are stuck in that repeating cycle, in that phase of using the same product to try and get a stain out over and over and over again, and not recognizing that maybe they need to look at it from a different perspective. Beautiful, really beautiful cards. Okay, let's get you some Scrabble tiles, letters and numbers in here. It does make a little bit of noise when I shake it. I'm going to shake it in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now I've got that Fix You song by Coldplay. I and a 1, an X and an 8. It would be interesting if we get the fix, the F, a B and a 3, a Z and a 10, Brexit, a T and a 1, an M and a 3, a P and a 3, a H and a 4, an A and a 1, a V and a 4. Oh, that's interesting, a Haven. An E and a 1, that Safe Haven movie is coming to mind. A J, and she left a relationship that she couldn't fix. A 8, J and an 8, a D and a 2, an S and a 1 and an R and a 1. Okay, let's get 3 final cards. I'm going to leave that there. Anything else your guides need you to know? The 5 of Wands, which is the card of conflict, was trying to come out. Okay, we've got the 9 of Cups, which is the Moon in Scorpio. Moon in Scorpio is on the 20th. Not necessarily meaning that something's going to happen on the 20th, but the moon is about emotions. The moon is about things that are hidden. And Scorpio, as I said before, is death and rebirth. The moon in Scorpio, hidden emotions. Maybe you need to sit down and have a chat with this person. It's also a new moon. It's the new moon in Scorpio this month. And when it's a new moon, even though the moon is in the sky, you can't see it because it's in shadow. So it's an opportunity for new, but what actually has to come up is things that are hidden. And maybe that's what these cards are, because, you know, in some aspects, it may not be that you have to have a conversation with this person, but it may mean that one or both of you have to recognize the other person's perspective. The 3 of Cups, communication. That's Mercury in Cancer. And Cancer in the zodiac is the family. But it's emotions in and around the family too. Yeah, Neptune, King of Cups, Neptune in Pisces. So again, this spiritual lesson, I actually think Neptune is in Pisces at the moment. I'm not an astrologer, don't quote me on that. But Neptune is at the energetic degree of a sign at the moment. And I want to say it's Pisces. So it's got a huge cycle, 164 years. huge in terms of lessons that you're meant to learn with this particular individual. Part of your soul's ascension, your soul's elevation. And then it goes into, and then it goes into Aries, which is the start of the zodiac. But when it goes into Aries, because Aries is the first and Neptune is the last, the lessons that you've learned, did I say that right? Aries is the first, but Pisces is the last. And Pisces is about spirituality. The current North Node placement for the next 18 months, through until, because it's almost been there 6 months now, through until middle of next year, the North Node, our collective point of destiny, is in Pisces, which is actually really beautiful, because if you think, if it is Neptune that's going into Aries next year, it's going in there, having learned the spiritual lessons in the current connections of the people that you are in connections with, and whether those connections are ending, the decision that you make to end a connection, to walk away from a connection, or the spiritual lessons that you learn if you're going to reboot this connection and build again with this person. But you do so with knowledge. And when I was saying I saw the Emperor card, a balanced Emperor is a balance of wisdom and action. But Neptune is the bottom of the ocean. It's about things coming up from the depths. And you charge forward and build again, not having learnt those lessons? Or do you recognize the love? Love is the greatest healer. Do you recognize that love for that person? Or do you recognize that staying in a relationship with this person, connection with this person, is not filling your cup? Love is the greatest healer, and you give to yourself by walking away. Interesting, very interesting. And the Seven of Swords, which is the moon in Aquarius. Again, moon, emotions. Moon is what's hidden. But Aquarius is the rebel. Aquarius is the sign of doing things in an unconventional way. So maybe if you are, if you're walking away, then you're doing it at the gasps of everybody around, because, how can you end a relationship with that person? Be it your husband, your wife, your sibling, your parent, whoever it is, a workplace. How can you end a relationship with that person? You are meant to be connected to them. You can say, actually, you know what? It doesn't fill my cup anymore. I'm actually going to heal myself by filling my own cup. Or, because you've now had the insight, you can approach this relationship anew. If you want to reboot it, you can approach it anew in a different way. This card in the original drawing of the tarot is a guy who, in the middle of the night, he takes away some of the swords of the army while they're all asleep to stop a battle occurring. And taking away some of the swords is actually almost a way of, is this, I look at both life from both sides now. I recognize that if everyone's still got their swords on the table, then the arguments are going to continue. Very interesting reading. And again, it goes back to this Lover's card, which in the original drawing of the tarot, the Lover's card was called the choice. The choice that you have to reboot something or walk away. What letters we've got under there. So that's what I've got for you. Thanks so much for joining me for this reading. I hope that it resonated with you. If it did, please give it a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Interested in any of my tarot or oracle decks, the links to those can be found in the description box. Any of the songs I mentioned, I will also pop in the description box. There might be more messages for you in the title of the song, the story about the song, the music video, the imagery in the music video. All the best on your journey, and I will see you in another reading.